Imagine waking up tomorrow, reaching for your phone, and finding a dead screen. The invisible network connecting 5 billion people goes dark overnight. By the time this blackout hits, human civilization had already developed a profound clinical dependency on always being plugged in. During the COVID-19 pandemic quarantines, severe internet addiction reached 36.7% in some populations. We relied on this digital infrastructure as our primary method for emotional regulation. The constant scrolling, checking, and messaging served to manage our stress, alleviate our boredom, and balance our daily moods. The true catastrophe of day one is the sudden severing of humanity's emotional life support system. The immediate physical fallout happens within hours. Global stock markets freeze entirely. Digital payment systems fail at the register, and GPS satellites spin uselessly above as navigation software goes dead. This massive logistical failure completely strips away the convenience factor of modern life. Without the ability to order groceries, hail a ride, or navigate across town, billions of people find themselves instantly, physically isolated in their homes. That physical isolation breeds an immediate psychological terror. For the first time in decades, people are trapped alone with their own thoughts, permanently cut off from the continuous dopamine loops of notifications and infinite feeds. The freezing of stock markets and failed navigation systems are the external symptoms. Inside the minds of billions, a synchronized and invisible event begins, the sudden onset of mass psychological withdrawal. Within days, the world enters a phase of acute, clinical mass withdrawal. The symptoms of internet addiction disorder withdrawal are highly documented. People separated from their devices experience severe agitation, depression, and sudden flashes of anger. These psychological symptoms manifest physically, triggering rapid heartbeats, tense shoulders, and shortness of breath. This diagram illustrates the ACE model, anonymity, convenience, and escape, which psychologists use to explain digital dependency. When the internet vanishes, that critical third pillar, escape, crumbles entirely. Without that escape mechanism, users no longer have a frictionless virtual environment to flee into when faced with real-world difficulties or irritation. They are forced to process their distress in real time. The impact hits specific subgroups even harder. Individuals coping with Facebook addiction disorder or compulsive gaming suddenly lose their ability to achieve a flow state, that deeply immersive emotional experience where clear goals and constant feedback create a sense of total engagement. Without the network to satisfy deeply ingrained psychological needs for immersion and connection, human behavior inevitably mutates into a state of impulsive, widespread clinical distress. Governments quickly realize that deploying the military for food distribution is insufficient. They are forced to initiate a massive global psychiatric triage to handle a population in mental freefall. We saw early blueprints for this response before the blackout. South Korea had already classified internet addiction as a national crisis, building a network of government-funded jump-up internet rescue schools. These programs combated the intense neurological engagement forged in massive, high-stimulation sensory environments like professional esports arenas. In other regions, state interventions were far more desperate. Chinese treatment clinics utilized extreme measures, including strict physical confinement and electroconvulsive therapy, to shock adolescents out of their severe digital dependencies. This level of intervention was necessary because tech companies engineered their platforms to foster dependency. Lawsuits filed by dozens of U.S. states argued that the algorithms driving social media were built using the exact same psychological hooks as the nicotine pods sold to minors by e-cigarette companies. Treating the sudden collapse of civilization's digital habits requires a biological and psychiatric rehabilitation effort on par with treating a global chemical dependency. As weeks turn into months, the worst of the shock begins to pass. The acute physical withdrawal symptoms, the racing hearts and panicked agitation, finally begin to fade globally. This chart maps psychologist John Grohal's 3-stage model. Before the blackout, civilization was trapped in the high peak of enchantment. The network's loss forced a violent crash into disillusionment. Having survived that trough, society levels off into balance, actively rejecting the memory of compulsive addiction. Frameworks that once existed on the fringes, like the 12-step recovery programs of Internet and Technology Addictus Anonymous, transition into mainstream utility. Their methods for finding self-esteem outside a screen become foundational blueprints for rebuilding daily routines. The permanent, forced removal of the Internet ultimately acts as an involuntary global rehab, pushing humanity past its toxic obsession and guiding it into a necessary, healthy equilibrium. Without the reduced social cues of online chatting, where tone and empathy are easily lost behind an anonymous keyboard, society is forced to rebuild genuine face-to-face communication and strengthen local community structures. The resulting society is smaller, slower, and hyper-local. On a typical city street, the constant blue light from palms and pockets has vanished, replaced by the necessity of face-to-face negotiation and physical trade. Looking back, the Internet functioned as the invisible psychological and logistical infrastructure holding together modern civilization. The disappearance of the Internet would not cause human extinction. It would simply make the high-speed, digitally mediated lifestyles of the 21st century physically impossible to sustain.